So now we're going to code bubble sort, and we're going to pick up where we left off in the last video with this list here. I'm going to shrink it down into the corner so we have room for our code, and we'll start writing our function, which will be called bubble sort, and we'll pass it a list. We'll call it my list, and that's going to be the list we have in the lower right-hand corner here. So remember in the last video, we talked about how the first time we would go through the list, there were 5 times we were going through the list. And then there was 4 times and then 3 times. So we're going to start out with this for loop, where the range is the length of the list minus 1. That's going to be equal to 5. And then we're going to go to 0, and then we're going to decrement it each time. So what we're going to do now is the second for loop is going to be the for loop that is moving forward through the list. So that's going to look like this. This one to begin with is going to run 5 times, do 5 comparisons. And then when we go through this again, I is going to be 4, and then this is going to run 4 times. So it's inside of this for loop where we're going to do our comparisons. So we'll have an if statement. We'll say if my list at the index of j is greater than my list at the index of j plus 1. So this is going to be the index of j in the first iteration, and this is going to be j plus 1. So if j is greater, we want to switch these two. And we'll switch these with these 3 lines of code. So let's walk through this. Temp equals my list at the index of j. So temp equals 4. Then on this line, j is equal to j plus 1. That's going to move that value of 2 over 1 like this. Then we'll say my list at j plus 1, that empty spot, we want it to be equal to temp. And that moves that in there. And once we run through these for loops, we're going to have a list that looks like this. And the only thing left to do is to return the list. And that is our entire function for bubble sort. So I'm going to take this list and mix it back up the way it was. And now let's go look at this in VS Code. So there is our function there. And this is where we run bubble sort on that list that we just saw, 426513, and we'll print out the results. And I'll run this. And that gives us our list in order 1 through 6. And that is our function for bubble sort.